Hi, my name is Brian Wassam. I'm an attorney based here in Detroit, Michigan in the United States, and I want to thank you for inviting me to address your AR Meetup group there in Barcelona. You may also know I'm a co-founder of the AR Meetup group in Detroit as well. I understand that you are discussing augmented reality games today, and so I wanted to raise two legal issues that are likely to come up with respect to AR games in the near future. Those two issues are injury and privacy. Now, the first issue, injury, what I mean by that is when players of AR games end up hurting themselves physically while playing the games. In the United States, we call this the law of negligence, and that's the law of holding one person responsible for another person hurting themselves. So, augmented reality games are different from most others in that they actually require the user to be out in the physical world interacting with things. That's what makes AR. It's what makes it different than other forms of digital entertainment. It's that component of interacting with the physical world. And anytime you're asking a player to go do that, you're running the risk that they're going to interact with that physical world in a way that hurts themselves. And specifically, the more public that this game becomes, the more it requires players to interact with things where other people are at, things where physical dangers may be present, traffic, cars, vehicles, that sort of thing. There's a risk that those people will injure themselves, and once they do, of course, there's a risk that they'll come back after the game manufacturer, the game company themselves, and say, well, this was your fault. Now, in the United States, we've already had some cases in which players of scavenger hunts, games where the players are looking through a physical area for certain objects, have sued the property owners, the people running the games, to say, look, you made me focus on the game rather than my surroundings, and thus I slipped on a wet floor and hurt myself, or things of that nature. And there have been some cases that have made some progress in that area and some that haven't. So in the AR space, it's going to be important for the people who manufacture or operate these games to give appropriate warnings to players to avoid injuries, and if people do injure themselves, to avoid liability for it. There's one particular example that comes to mind, an AR game that was run in Germany, apparently, according to its YouTube advertisement, called The Witness. And I don't know anything about this game other than what they showed of themselves on YouTube, but this YouTube video shows players running around a city into abandoned parking garages, up rickety snow-covered stairs, past barking guard dogs, all situations that are inherently dangerous and pose an obvious risk of people hurting themselves if they're not paying attention to their surroundings. So while that may be a fictionalized account of this game, it raises these issues and points out issues that game designers are going to need to take into account when they offer these games to the public. Now, the second issue I want to briefly address is that of privacy. Again, what makes AR unique is its interaction with the physical world. So that includes geolocation. Game operators, the game software providers, are likely to have the ability to track the geolocation of players. That's just inherent to the nature of the game. And along with that comes a responsibility to disclose what data is being collected and how that data is being used. In the United States, that's a relatively simple process. There aren't as many laws regulating that data. You just need to disclose what's being collected and let people know how it's being used. There in the EU, where you are, there are more specific and more stringent regulations on data privacy to take into account. Obviously more specific than we have time to go into here, but I want to raise those two issues for discussion in your group and for consideration. And enjoy your meetup, and I hope to talk to you again sometime.